while the road was clear, and I saw a bumper sticker, it said, "Hey, get off my rear." I was really late for work, and man, I had to pee, but a mountain of machinery loomed in front of me. It looked just like a giant rolling frickin' football field, with a driver so belligerent he refused to yield. It was just a nightmare, the worst I'll ever know, to be stuck there on a two-lane behind Winnebago. Winnebago, Winnebago.
That is the opening to Winnebago, just one of hundreds of songs written and performed by Wayne Faust, an entertainer whose stage presence is not easy to categorize. He evokes shades of Harry Chapin, Jim Stafford, Steve Martin, Ray Stevens. He dares to make audience interaction a substantial part of his show, including on-the-spot compositions about his delighted patrons. It's easier to state that our guest has for over 5 decades successfully entertained people across America and overseas.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer.
Thanks for listening to OK Boomer, where we interview people with interesting jobs, hobbies, and lives. Our guest today, Wayne Faust, is a Renaissance man whose creativity includes playing multiple instruments, composing songs that range from novelty to nostalgic to inspiring, and authoring multiple novels. Join me for a conversation with a performer who is genuine, talented, and gifted in spreading joy.
Okay, Boomer.
So we've got Wayne Faust with us, and that's F-A-U-S-T, Faust, an entertainer, longtime entertainer who delights people with musical comedy performances. Wayne, you just got back from a long gig in the Ozarks. Now you're back in Colorado. Are you settled in and comfortable?
Yeah, it's really nice. I live at 7,000 feet, so we had a lot of nights here these in July when it was 98. And very humid, so I get back to the motel just dripping wet, and I live at 7,000 feet. So even if it's warm here, it doesn't feel that warm. And at night, it gets down in the 50s. So my wife was killing me. I talked to her in the morning, and I'd be trying to sit outside to have breakfast in Missouri, and it was already 85 degrees. And she goes, "Yeah, I'm sitting out on the deck having breakfast, and it's 68." And I would say, "You're killing me."
Yeah.
But it is nice to be home. But it's also good to go to Missouri.
Indeed. I didn't think about that. The sweat that you must generate because you're on stage and you're performing. There's probably lights on you. Does the sweat? The sweat's getting in your hands. You're playing the banjo or the guitar. Does that become a factor in your performance?
Not so much in the performance. Once I get started, I'm fine. But, I got to set up and sitting up and carrying the speakers and doing all that. That's when you really get tired. But once I'm into my show, I'm fine. And then at the end of the night, of course, you're tired and trying to carry stuff. So there's a lot of the staff at the Shady Gators, which was the main place I play. They would help. But the main thing for a guitar player is crazy because your strings go dead because you're sweating all over them. Guitar strings and banjo strings. So in Colorado, I might change strings every couple of months, or even when I was doing the ski season 6 days a week, I would change them about every 2 weeks. And in Missouri, I don't change them every night, but boy, I feel like I should because they start going dead on you.
It's something I never would have imagined. There's some insight, kids, for you that are interested in music. There's an inside tip. Change your strings when it's hot out. For those...
And then the first night after you change them, you go, "Oh, that sounds so good." And then you don't realize because each night they're gradually a little bit more dull.
Right.
And so I would change them about every 4 or 5 shows this summer. I did 35 shows. So what is that?
How about that?
7 times, 6 times, something like that. I changed them.
And what's a set of guitar strings cost?
Well, I buy them in bulk. You get like a dozen sets at a time. So I have a 12-string and a 6-string. So the 12-string ones, they're really good quality. They're phosphor bronze is what they're called. And they're about $10 a set. And then you can get the 6-string sets for about $7. And then banjo strings are about $5 a set because there's only 5 strings.
One of the many expenses that you have as an entertainer.
Yeah, when I do my taxes in April, I've got a whole box for little receipts for write-offs for stuff like that.
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about that aspect of your career towards the end of our conversation. But for the few people in America who don't know you, let me tell them that you've got 50 years of experience entertaining people from all over the world, from ages 5 to 105. You've performed regularly at such prestigious spots as Sloppy Joe's in Key West, Tiffany's at Beaver Run in Breckenridge, Colorado, and across the pond in England and Holland. You've had original songs on the radio be played as far away as Australia. You've had songs played on the NBC's Today Show. That's a pretty good start. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I've done 7,000 shows, so there's a lot of things, but that's a good kind of summary of what I've done. But if you want me to give you a little synopsis of where I started, and Wakanda figures in this too, so I know you're based in that area, so maybe I can add a few little details about that if you want.
My Wakanda listeners would love that, and they know that I spent 30 years in Wakanda. I'm now in Western Illinois, but still get back there regularly to do various things that include seeing my children and grandchildren. But yeah, let's have that synopsis.
Okay, well, just in a nutshell, I started playing guitar in 6th grade or 7th grade. I grew up in Norwood Park in Chicago, around Harlem and Devon. I even have a little home song that's been pretty popular about Norwood Park and growing up there. But anyhow, so that's where I grew up, and then I started playing guitar. Well, at first I played piano because my mom she's where I got my music. So she played accordion and piano, and she played by ear. So then I took 2 years of piano lessons, and then all my friends on guitar were learning songs by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and on piano I was learning songs like March of the Bunny and stuff like that, And so I said, I want a guitar, and I quit piano. And they, well, you're not gonna stick with guitar because you quit piano. I said, oh, please. And so I begged them, and they rented me a guitar. It was called a Kent, and it cost $19.95 to buy, and they rented it for 50 cents a month.
Oh my!
And the strings were literally like inches off, and my fingers really did bleed. You hear about stories like that, but I kept at it, and then they finally bought me a real guitar. It was a Harmony by Sears or something, whatever it was. But anyhow, so I started playing, and I had a little rock band in 8th grade. But I would buy sheet music, and it cost $1.50, and this is back in the early 70s or late 60s, and the sheet music was $1.50, and I thought, whoa, that's a lot of money. So I would get sheet music like for Herman's Hermit songs and House of the Rising Sun, and then all of a sudden I would hear my mom playing downstairs on piano and just going from one song to another, no music, anything. I go, oh, Mom, could you figure out the chords for this record? And then I had Henry VIII by Herman's Hermits, and then she'd sit down, oh yeah, that's a G, that's a C. In 5 minutes she'd have the chords. And then so she did that, and after about 6 months I realized, I can do that. I can hear what those changes are. So I've been playing by ear ever since. Nice. So then I had rock bands, and then in high school, at our church youth group, we had like a little folk group. So I started doing the acoustic stuff, and that's pretty much the direction I went ever since. And then played all through college. I did coffee houses, and I had 2 buddies that sang with me. And I always liked funny songs. Most people, growing up, liked the songs by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And I loved Hello Mudda, Hello Fada, and Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini, and those kind of songs. So I wrote a lot of funny songs early on, and started getting some traction with those, and all through college as well.
Jimmy Amadolphus here. For those of you who might not be as, shall we say, as ripe as Mr. Faust and I, let me help you out there with that Hello Mata, Hello Fada thing by playing a bit of that original song.
Hello Mata, Hello Fada, here I am at Camp Granada. Camp is very entertaining, and they say we'll have some fun if it stops raining.
And then so I was going to be a lawyer. I have a history degree, history poli-sci from Carthage College in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Nice.
And then the last senior year, I went around to court cases and stuff in Chicago, and I said, I don't know if I want to do this, and I wanted to get married to my wife. for 2 more years. And so I said, let me give this a shot. So I started going to the folk clubs on Lincoln Avenue where you have these open mics. And when you talk about nerves, you either got there 2 hours early and signed up and had to sit around for 2 hours before you got on, or got there later, you get on towards the end and have to sit through. You got 4 songs, so everybody was like 20 minutes. So you'd sit through all this and getting more and more nervous. And by the time you got up there, you'd be a wreck. But I did that, and pretty soon I started getting hired, and I started playing at the ground rounds. They were really big for me in the late 70s. So I started playing the ground round restaurants because people would follow me. I had a mailing list, and I'd leave it out, and people would put their name and address. So I started collecting fans, and then pretty soon they'd come from one. If I played a ground round in, say, Downers Grove, and then I played one in Morton Grove, they would follow me there because they were all kind of the same, and so
Groupies.
So by about 1980, this is where Wakanda comes in. By about 1980, we moved to. By the way, my first house in 1977 was in Island Lake. We built a little 800 square foot house in Island Lake, and and my first son was born when we were there.
Awesome.
In 1980, I said, I'm going to go to LA and see what I can do. We checked out Nashville and we checked out LA, and because I've been doing pretty good by then. I recorded an album in 1979 up in Gurney at a little studio, and a vinyl album. That's my only vinyl. We still got copies of it, but and they played it on the radio.
Nice.
But then, yes, I wanted to go to LA, and so I was looking for a place to have a concert. I thought I need to do a concert and have people come. And you might know this. I think it was called Williams Hall or something. It was between Island Lake and Wakanda along that main road. And anyhow, so I rented it out. I charged $2 to get in, and we thought we'd about 75 people, and we got 150, and had to open the big doors, and people were spread out on the lawn, and I had some of the guys that played it on my album coming. It's the first time I ever played with a band.
Fantastic.
And then so I got all these $2. So I had like $300 in singles pretty much. And so then next day we left for LA with moving trucks and my diesel Rabbit.
Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is a place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly.
And so our first stop for gas was in Iowa. And I filled up my diesel Rabbit for like $3. And then I filled up the moving truck, and it used up almost all the singles I got from my concerts. I was like, oh yeah. So anyhow, so then we got to LA. I was there for 6 years, and then it went on from there. But that's pretty much how it all started.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Jimmy wanted to say hello.
Hello, Wayne. This is Jimmy Amadufus, Boomer's co-host. Welcome to the show. It's a joy to have you.
Well, I feel kind of honored, because I got to say, I don't think even Mick Jagger's ever talked to Jimmy Amadufus, so I feel honored.
You and Mick have that in common, but now you got it over him. So, but I'm telling you, I was stalking you on the internet, and you're a Renaissance man. You're a multi-talented artist. You're a singer. You're a musician on multiple instruments. You're a songwriter. You're a comedian. You're an author of novels, short stories. You've got more creativity in your little finger than I do in my entire being. How about that?
Well, I think I was dropped on my head when I was young, and it stirred up something. And plus, I'm left-handed, and they say left-handed people are supposed to be creative. And by the way, it was our day yesterday. I don't know if you know that yesterday was... this is in August when we're talking here, but it was International Left-Handers Day. So, that's probably the whole reason for that stuff.
I noticed on watching the videos along with Jimmy that you are left-handed, but you play like instruments, the guitar and banjo, like a right-handed person would. Am I correct with that?
Yeah. And the reason for that is when I got my first guitar, he said, well, you can string it like Paul McCartney and, play it the opposite way. But, you use both your hands when you're playing. Your right hand does the strumming and the left hand does the fingering. Mm-hmm. So there really isn't a real advantage. So I just got a regular, whatever you call right-handed guitar. And the weird thing is now, after all these years of strumming, I do everything left-handed still. I play hockey. I shoot left-handed. I play baseball. I throw left-handed and bat left-handed. But if I was going to arm wrestle Jimmy, which I wouldn't do because I know you're probably a real buff, but if I would arm wrestle you, I would use my right arm now because that forearm is really strong from all that strumming all those years.
There you go. And you said you played hockey, and I know you do. And two things. One, do you protect your hands? Do you do anything special to make sure your hands don't get smacked?
You wear gloves, but yeah, I suppose that could be a risk, but that's never been a problem. The only real injury I had was first year I played. I was in my 40s. I played on a regular team. I have a little rink at my house, so I was a skater. But right before Christmas, the first year I played, I broke my ankle. I had screws in there and stuff. But in true hockey credibility, I was back on the ice for the playoffs in 6 weeks after surgery, so I was pretty proud of myself for that. I hadn't really thought about my hands. I haven't had any issue playing hockey for 20 years. So.
Well, kudos to you, Mr. Faust, because you're not a young spring chicken, that's for sure. You're into your 70s, still playing hockey. That is awesome. And just another one of the things you're talented at. Too much talent for me, I tell you what.
Well, if you saw me on the ice, you might not think I was that talented. But happy to play. Like I like to tell everybody, well, I'm old, but I'm slow. So.
But you can shoot accurately, perhaps.
Yeah, I have a decent shot, but I got to get down there to get it.
That's right. You got to get to it. Well, you've been getting to it for 50 years in performing on stage. What are some of the favorite memories from those 50 years of performing?
Oh man, I got so many.
You
know, I love the interaction with the audience. I mean, that's what's made my career. Is I don't stand up there and just start playing songs. It's like I just reach out and grab them and start talking to this table and these people and whatever it is. And when you get a whole, I can give you one. This one stands out. I did Breckenridge Opry Ski for 20 years. Drove up and down the mountain almost every day. It's about an hour and a half from here, and every kind of blizzard you can imagine. But I would get people from all over the world. That's how I got to play in England and Scotland and Holland and those places, because they would see me in Breckenridge and say, like, English people, oh, you should come over to the pond and set it up. So one night at the end of my show, I do this Circle Be Unbroken thing pretty often. In Chicago, I do Goodnight Irene, and everybody stands up and puts their arms around each other and rocks back and forth. But a lot of other times I do this Circle Be Unbroken medley with these old gospel songs with the banjo, and everybody gets up and makes a big circle. And one night I think I counted 16 different countries that were in the audience, all standing around with their arms around each other doing this Circle Be Unbroken.
Will the circle be unbroken? By and by, there's a bitter mountain waiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Well, I looked over.
Wow.
And then when I was packing up and leaving, they're all going to each other's tables and buying each other's drinks and stuff. We had Holland, we had New Zealand, we had Russia, Sweden. I mean, all these different countries, and I felt like the United Nations.
Indeed.
And that to me has been the best thing. I mean, overall, if I had to have a category, what I like most about performing is when that happens, or especially you'll have a crummy night where nobody's really listening and they're just not interested, they don't know who you are or whatever. But then by the end of the night, they think you're their best buddy. And those feel the best of all because you came from way down here and then you ended up in a real high. So, but I got to, all the places I got to go that I never would have been able to afford or would have done. I've been on seaplanes in Louisiana and landed on bayous and seen castles in England. And I played this little bar in England called Oddfellows. It was a 300-year-old pub, and the ceilings were real low, because in the old days people were a lot smaller, so I kind of had to duck my head. And stuff like that. And they really liked it. I'm like, I just grew up in Norwood Park, and here I'm doing my funny songs and telling jokes, and they really like it. It's like, how did this happen? So
Yeah.
those kind of things. So I would say overall, but there's millions of things we could talk for hours, but
Yeah.
different memories, and good and bad. I mean, there's been some rough things a few times, but
Oh, I can only imagine. But that's powerful, especially that first story you told me about the people from the various countries getting together and exchanging hellos and buying each other drinks. That's a powerful moment. That's you can't put a price on that.
no. And I went home feeling pretty good. And those are the things we all take to heart. I was talking to you before we started recording this, and there's certain things that you just take to heart and remember, and it kind of gets you through when maybe things aren't going so well, because performing is all about facing rejection. I mean, for anybody to stand up on a stage and say, "Hey, here I am, and I got something I think that you're going to like," it's not easy sometimes. I mean, sometimes you don't feel like it, or it's a bad situation, and they got you set up in the wrong spot. I can tell you some of those horror stories, but you always, when the good things happen, and you file those away, and so then it gets you through the bumpy times. And I told you a story before we started. It was just 4 or 5 years ago in Missouri. Whenever there's a big group, I have a lot of fun with them. I make up songs on the spot, which I don't think anybody else does, and I'll make up songs. There's one guy sitting at a table with 5 girls, so I'll make him a whole song about this guy and what a study is and that kind of stuff, and because I can rhyme just about anything. And then so one night I was doing that. There was this big group. It's a big family. It looks like 20, 30 people. And at the head of the table was clearly a much older man and fairly frail. So I made a big deal out of him. I had girls singing directly to him, and "You Are My Sunshine," and I mean, all this stuff. I really had fun with them. They were really nice people. And so after I got home from the summer, I got an email from a woman and said, I said, "I know it's hard for you to be on the road and you're away from home, but I just want to tell you what you did for us." And he said that the man that you were singing to, he hadn't been out in public for about a year because of health issues, and we finally got him. We got all together, and so several weeks later he died. And she said, "You gave us something that we'll never forget, because that was something before he died that." And he said, "I just want you to know what you do is really valuable." So I printed that email up, and it's on my wall in my office. So those are the kind of things that you really take to heart.
Yeah, you gave that family a wonderful memory to cherish for the rest of their lives.
Right.
That's fantastic. And I think people enjoy your type of entertainment. I would describe it as it's clean, it's non-disparaging, except to yourself sometimes. And there's, like you said, there's plenty of audience involvement, and you have music, you have comedy. It's very upbeat. What do you hope people are thinking or saying about your performance when they walk away from your performance?
Other than, where do I get tickets for the next show?
Well, there's a lot of places. I play in Colorado. I just play local clubs. There's a place called the Bucksnort where I'm playing tomorrow night, and it's a 100-year-old place, and I was a regular for 30 years. This is a quick little inside story, but it's literally, it used to be in the back, a 7-mile gravel road up in the foothills in the mountains.
Oh my.
And when you're driving there, you think that what's going to be here? There can't be anything down here. And then there's the Bucksnort, and the famous people have been there. John Elway used to show up there all the time. I got on CNN one night because they were looking for the 100 best out of the way bars in America, and that Bucksnort was one of them. So anyhow,
nice.
4 or 5 years ago, a woman from California moved in across the street, across the dirt road of the Bucksnort, and started calling the cops on them every time they were open. Got the health department on them, got them shut down, and so everybody thought the Bucksnort was going for good.
Terrible.
So then about a year and a half ago, another man who believed in the Bucksnort, he bought it, and he did all his stuff, got the septic back to everything up there to par, and they just opened several weeks ago. So tomorrow night I'm playing there. So I just hope there's places for everybody to sit, because it's not that big of a place. But those places, it doesn't cost anything to get to. I do have one show in Chicago in November that I do every year, because I still have a lot of fans from back even from the late 70s when I started out. then they bring their kids and their grandkids and whatever. And that's at the Elks Lodge in Des Plaines. I rent the banquet hall downstairs. It holds about 300. And
you got a big date
this year. It's going to be the celebration of 50 years of performing, because I started out in 1975. So it's going to be a big one this year. So anybody in that area, or anybody wants to do a road trip, they can find out about that on my website. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah, well,
that's going to be the Saturday before Thanksgiving every year. So that's where they can get tickets.
Yeah. But I got to know, what happened to the lady across the road from the Bucksnart? Did that guy that reopened it, did he marry her, or did he run her off?
She got him shut down. She got him shut down, and then she moved. It's like, thank you, lady. Real nice. That was real nice of you. 100-year-old place. So it wasn't like it was a flash in the pan and they opened a bar across from her, and then she was complaining about that. So,
oh my
goodness. I don't even know what her name is. I wouldn't say anything because people will stalk her, but it was... it's a kind of a beloved place. The Bucksmart's one of those. You just have to go there. And why would you go way out of the way and take a 7-mile, mostly gravel road? And because that's what you do. And you got kids and grandkids and bikers and college people and old people. Everybody gets along, and it's just really a cool place.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good time. And it's just reopening, and you're playing for the first time in many years tomorrow night.
In a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. I should check. Time goes by so fast these days. But I think it's been about 3 years now. But I was there pretty much once a month when I wasn't on the road. I always do a Christmas show there every year. My birthday's in November. I have a birthday show that I always did. And my dad lived with us for several years. He moved out from Chicago when he was about 89, and then he came to every show at the Bucksnart, and he would wear his World War II hat, and because he was in World War II, and everybody would want to talk to him, and he came up and sang with me. I would tell everybody that, my dad used to tour with the Rolling Stones. I would lay it on really thick. It was a bunch of BS. He had a metal finishing business. but then he'd come up and he'd sing "You Are My Sunshine," and then I have this song called "I'm an Old Song" about I'm going to be a symphony someday, and it goes along with "You Are My Sunshine." So he would come up and sing that, and then he'd do a couple of World War II songs, and he'd get down on one knee. He'd be 94, and he'd get down on one knee in front of a lady in the front row and sing "You Are My Sunshine" tour and stuff. So, it was really a cool place that was his favorite place to go.
Nice. That's awesome. Much of your music is not only upbeat and funny. You've taken the whole concept of people getting to be our age, about and enduring what goes on as you get older, like becoming bald, and you've embraced it. You've made a pretty good shtick and penny off of the whole idea of men becoming bald.
Yeah, and I kind of ran with it. I used to do the comb over. I used to work with a partner for a while, Rusty Lewis. It was Faust and Lewis, and we did some pretty big stuff that we played in. We did a lot of shows at Sloppy Joe's, and then a place called the Beer Barrel Saloon in Put-in-Bay, Ohio, up on Lake Erie. And on the weekends, we were playing for 3,000 people every weekend, which was really great. But yeah, both of us started going bald, and I was doing the comb over, and I said to Rusty, we should write a bald guy song. So, we started doing the show. So no more comb over. You're going to have to commit to this. So I still have hair on the sides, and unfortunately it makes me look just like Terry Bradshaw. So I wear a hat so I don't have to sign autographs because people think I'm Terry Bradshaw. But anyhow, that's a story I can tell you at Put-in-Bay. Two stories about that song. I still do that all the time, and I get bald guys up and.
Bald guys. Bald guys.
Bald guys are happening. They're really getting hip. Strutting on the beaches, cruising down the strip. We're not like our parents. It skips a generation. We're the baby boomers, and we're causing a sensation.
Bald guys.
And the whole song is about how cool we are. I mean, it's not saying that we're we're sort of making fun, but it's they come up and my regular show, I have the whole, the background that's on the album with the drums and the whole thing, and then I come out with the guys that are out there, however many we can get, and then all they got to do is sing "Bald Guys," and then they
Bald guys on skateboards rolling down the street. Bald guys are rocking to the heavy beat. Bald guys in tuxes, hey, they ain't no slobs. Bald guys get all the chicks 'cause they got a job.
Bald guys.
They're really getting hip.
Bald guys.
They dance around and while I'm doing the verses, and I get women to scream for them. Sometimes they'll come up and put money in their pants like Chippendales or something. It's really funny. But one night at Puddin' Bay, and this was one of those Saturday nights, and it was a big place, and we had the big lights, and you could only see the front several rows, but there was these two biker dudes right in the front, not cracking a smile or anything, and we're doing our show, but they were bald, bald on the top. They got tattoos, the whole thing. And I'm thinking, Rusty was up there with me. I usually pick out who's going to come up, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I should try to get these guys up. There's no way they're going to do it because these guys are just way too bad guys, So I said, we need to get these guys up on stage. And of course, everybody starts cheering, and they didn't bat an eye. They walked up there and stood up there, and they never cracked a smile. And they did, and then all of a sudden, they both had voices like, "Whoa, guys!" And so we're playing this song, and I'm trying to do the verse, and I'm laughing, and I'm looking at people in the front row, and they're like almost falling on the floor.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I'll never forget those two guys. And then at the end, they just kind of bowed, waved everybody, didn't crack a smile, and went back down. And then the only other story about that, I played in Green Bay, Wisconsin. My dad told me I was going into the belly of the beast because he was a big Bears fan, and you're not going to Bears. And I was a block away from Lambeau Field, and it was for Wisconsin Public Service in January. It was their Christmas thing because they're so busy during the holidays. And there were 500 people, and I got 47 bald guys up. Obviously, they couldn't fit on stage, so they were speeding down the aisle and dancing around and singing bald guys. And women were just going crazy. It was really funny. So yeah, that's my bald guy story. But yeah, I have a lot of those kind of songs. I have another one called "The older we get, the better we used to be."
Yeah.
And those kind of things. So I've always been pretty upfront with my life. I sang songs about my kids when they were born, and I still do that. I talk about my grandkids, and I have a song called "I'm Going to Be a Grandpa" that I wrote when we heard that we were going to be grandparents. He just got married. It's just really crazy in June. But
Yeah.
I mean, I share all that stuff just because it's kind of been sort of an open book, and I think people relate to that, and it's kind of nice and good and bad. I have songs about my dad since he died, and my mom since she died. And,
Now you said that you put your life's an open book and you bring that stuff on stage. So now make the connection to the song that you wrote, which I thought was very good and very funny. I'm schizophrenic.
Yeah, that's not based on. I'm actually not schizophrenic. I saw it on a bumper sticker. I'm schizophrenic, so am I. And I said that needs to be a song, and that actually won me $50 in a Billboard songwriting contest. It was fourth place in the novelty category.
Yeah.
First place was $10,000, but I'm not bitter.
Saturday night, and I had a few too many. Elephants were pink. I saw me by the jukebox, so I wandered over. Said, "Son, can I buy me a drink?" Gee, it's good to see me. How long has it been? So glad I came down off the shelf. 'Cause friends like me ought to stick together. So here's to me and myself. I'm schizophrenic, so am I. He's schizo. How do I do? Beer in my left hand, beer in my right. He's schizo. I'm schizophrenic, me too.
Dang. Well, it's very good. And I'm telling listeners, go on YouTube, search for Faust, Faust, Wayne Faust, and look for the I'm Schizophrenic. I was laughing out loud watching that. Can you do...
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff on Spotify, and strangely enough, my grandkids, them and their friends, that's like their favorite song. They love I'm Schizophrenic. And there's a video on YouTube of it.
Yeah.
I filmed it during the shutdowns during COVID, and it's in my house, and then I use split screen, so there's like 4 of me all dressed different, singing I'm schizophrenic, so am I. And my wife even makes an appearance as a bartender because there's a line in there that said, bartender's cutting me off. I ordered a drink for the both of me, and then the bartender's cutting me off, and then so she dresses like a bartender and comes and takes my beer away. So
nice.
Yeah, so
good stuff.
Now, I'm not schizophrenic. I'd like to point out that a lot of people struggle with that, but that's not what it's supposed to be about. It's split personality thing. So
yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of play on words.
Okay, Boomer.
There's more laughter and music in part 2 of our conversation with Wayne Faust coming out next month.
Boomer, what you mean to say is that the episode's coming out next month, not that, like Wayne Faust is coming out next month.
Really, Jimmy? Really? In the meantime, you can get more of the Wayne Faust Show by visiting waynefaust.com. It's WayneFaust.com, where you can listen to more of his music, purchase some of his tunes, see where he's performing next, and book him for one of your events. Until next month.
Shut up! And kids, don't forget to be checking in with AroundPtown.com. It's got all the news that you can use. Stay hip, stay classy with AroundPtown.com. And for you fellas that want that hip and classy look, well, then you're going to want to get your butt to Ben's Barbershop chair. That's right, Ben's Barbershop. Look him up on Facebook.com. He's in Morrison. You make an appointment, you're going to love it. If you enjoyed listening to Boomer here, he'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to his podcast so you'd get notifications of when the next episode's coming up. Maybe leave a rating on a review. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe. That helps the podcast grow, and that makes the little fella feel so much better. And if you had any feedback for him, go ahead and contact him at ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Again, that's ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.